choose to not be first?
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
This is Colm mcguigan for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Started to be joined by Stephen Espinoza.
I'm becoming a regular now.
I know. I think like our relationship's just blossoming, isn't it? Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
In terms of this fight and the run that PBC and Showtime have had, how proud are you, first of all, to get this one over the line?
It's fantastic. You know, it sort of takes me back, what I mentioned in my remarks on stage, to 10 years ago, Canelo's first pay-per-view against Floyd Mayweather. And remembering that in the press conference, and, you know, he was relatively a baby in the sport at that point. And, you know, it's a nice full circle moment to come back, you know, on one of the bigger events of his career, 10 years after arguably his biggest event.
In terms of getting Canelo signed, talk me through that process, the negotiations. Was it tough?
Not as much. Look, there's a financial commitment. You know, PBC stepped up. We stepped up. But part of it is really the opponents. And I got to give Canelo credit, because he could have coasted through this last part of his career and taken easy opponents for big money. That's not what he did. So I think a lot of the attraction was getting access to Benavidez, the Charlos, Andre. And the second part of it is, I think, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think it's clear that our platform is the biggest for pay-per-view in the U.S. We've been doing this 37 years. We've got a machine, and you know we know how to market pay-per-views. And I think the combination of the best available opponents, the best available publicity marketing machine, I think that's really what attracted him.
I'm not looking past Jermell Charlo at all here, but whenever you're having those negotiations with Saul and Eddie Reynoso, what was the 3-fight deal? What was the plan? Who did you speak about in that meeting?
You know, it was really, when we initially it was, you know, Jamal, Benavidez, Andre, you know, if something happens with Plant, he could pop back into the picture. You know, Jermell was sort of, you know, a possibility, but distant. So, you know, I think there's a lot of talent that we've got access to. I mean, David Morrell even, you know, at that point. So there's easily, you can pick any 3 of those fights, and they're 3 massive fights.
Do you think the Benavidez fight could happen next for Canelo, Cinco de Mayo, big Mexican showdown?
I think so. Look, whoever wins in Benavidez and Andre is going to make a pretty good case to be, you know, the next Canelo opponent. So that will be a lot of momentum, and you know, that's going to be a pretty big statement win for whoever takes that fight.
I know a lot of what we talk about, you'll probably laugh, is Eddie Hearn all the time, but I do need to bring it up. Eddie obviously had Canelo previous to this. Canelo decided.
Can you? Okay. Okay, go ahead. Will you go talk to him real quick? Can you?
I'll wait for you.
Okay.
Canelo decided that obviously he was going to sign with you. When he decided to leave Eddie Hearn, was it hard to try and shift that DAZN and Matchroom out of Canelo's sight? Because obviously he had a previous deal with them. They seem to have a very good working relationship.
You know, not really. Look, he's bounced around. He's always been pretty, you know, active in his career. You know, was with us, was with HBO, DAZN. He's sort of rotated, and you know, he knows what he's doing. He's been around the block several times. So I don't think it was really much of an adjustment for him or for us. You know, I think, look, everyone's got a different style of doing business. And, you know, Matchroom and DAZN had their own style of dealing with him. You know, ours is different. But I think, you know, he's here to make the biggest, the best events, and I think that's what we have to offer.
Matchroom and DAZN have Haney Pro Grey looking likely at the end of October. Mm-hmm. Could you see a potential for the winner of that against maybe Tank Davis on a Showtime and DAZN joint platform?
Yeah, I think so. Look, Tank's made it real clear that he wants the biggest fights available, whether that's, you know, Shakur or Haney or you know, anybody else. He's, you know, we know there are sometimes obstacles. We've cleared them before, you know, with success. So, you know, I don't think there's any real obstacle that can prevent things from happening.
When could we see Tank back?
Tank wants to be back before the end of the year.
Likely opponent?
We're still in discussions. Still going. I mean, the question is, we got to make sure that he's physically ready. He's been obviously out of the gym, to use a euphemism, for a couple of months. So he's got to get back on track. And I know he would be excited to be in before the end of the year. If not, it'll be first part of next year.
Last one from me, because we're pushed for time. Deontay Wilder, looking likely that the Saudi deal is going to go ahead against Anthony Joshua in January. Will you be working towards maybe doing something with that deal and hosting that in the US? Have you spoke to the Saudis?
Not yet, but if it gets done, then we would definitely be very aggressive. And the Saudis have used a variety of different business models. Sometimes they buy out all the rights, and they put them out to bid, and we would be very aggressive. Sometimes, maybe a condition of Joshua is, he's very important to DAZN. Maybe they're going to, make it a condition, that DAZN gets some of the rights. If there's an opportunity there, we're going to be very aggressive in pursuing it, though.
Well, Stephen Espinoza, thank you very much for your time on IFL TV. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
You got it.
Choose to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,